We just started Ash Wednesday in the Christian tradition, started Lent with Ash Wednesday, and one of the formulas, which you may have heard yourself, is remember you are dust. To dust you will return. Quote from the beginning of Genesis. God to Adam. A reminder to all of us of our mortality. And if I were to suggest any meditation on mortality, it would be from the New York Times today. Not just about all the violence in the world, but there's a beautiful op-ed piece by Oliver Sacks, who's a neuroscientist, neurologist, who's 81 and just found he's dying of cancer. It's arguably the most beautiful thing the New York Times has ever printed. So if you want a very uplifting meditation on mortality from a very wise man, check that out. From a Zen point of view, well, that's Zen, of course, too, but specifically Zen, the best meditation on mortality and on the Buddhist approach, Zen Buddhist approach to death would be Tosetsu's three barriers at the end of the Mumonkan, the collection of koans, and I've commented on that a number of times already. So what I'd like to focus on today is precisely this dust imagery, and how we can compare the two traditions. The Hebrew tradition, I remember reading this many years ago in a book on Hebrew cosmology, it said that dust and ashes symbolize for the Hebrew tradition just absolute nothingness. There's no life, it's just the debris, the residue. You can't get any lower or less than that. So that was the symbolism there. And it is striking, if you just take it on that level, in those terms, that Zen would have an entirely different approach to, say, dust and ashes. Because the more you're present to reality, the more you know that in the least tiny bit of reality, if you're present to it, be it dust or ashes, it's the whole universe. Everything is there. It's not nothing, it's everything. And of course, modern science would say the same thing, or would point in that direction anyway, that every tiniest bit of matter is in the energy network of the universe connected to every other part. And that's something that Zen meditators have known for millennia, centuries. So I'd like to, use a couple of the koans from this, the Blue Cliff Record, that medieval collection of koans that Dogen, the founder of Zen in Japan, brought back with him from China. The legend is that he wrote it out, discovered it, and wrote it out by hand by candlelight the evening before he came back to Japan. Well, in any case, it's a good story, maybe even true. But the koans themselves are very, very telling. So I'd like to start with the 61st case. So the koan is, one of the masters giving a talk said, if you set up a single atom, like dust and ashes, and of course it's not atom it's a particle, it's not atom in the modern scientific sense, obviously, but very comparable in intent. If you set up a single atom of dust, a single particle of dust, the nation flourishes. Okay. If you do not set up a single atom of dust, the nation perishes. Okay, that's one of those koans which you can't possibly figure out. And certainly not intellectually, because you can't figure out life intellectually, if you hadn't noticed. But what is it saying? What can be taken to say? Right, as soon as you have a single atom of dust or anything, so a single reference point single teensy bit of reality, the whole cosmos is present. Everything else is implied and implicated and brought in. Another way of saying the nation flourishes. You know, all of culture, all of the world is present. As soon as you have even a single atom, the whole thing comes into being as soon as there's one part of it. So it's the fact that everything is related to everything else. My favorite image for that from the Zen tradition, as you said before, is the lion, the golden-haired lion on which Manjusri, the great bodhisattva wisdom, the sword of wisdom cutting through illusion, rides. And it said every golden hair of that mythical, metaphysical, mystical lion reflects every other hair. Another way of saying everything is everything. Indra's net is another way, the more Hindu way of saying it. A quantum hologram is a very modern scientific way of saying it. But everything is implied when the teeniest bit is implied. So as soon as you have the teeniest thing, you have everything. And that's not only just a proposition of cosmology, that's an experience of your meditation. That's where it comes from. It doesn't come from reflection, it comes from experience. That as soon as you're at all present and awake to the slightest thing, everything is there. And you are everything. So there's another koan which moves along in that direction. Number 50. Yunmen's every particle, every atom samadhi, every particle depth of awareness. Again, same idea, every atom. So it says, what is every atom samadhi? What is waking up to the slightest reality? And he said, Yunmen is one of the great masters who was asked this, and he said, food in the bowl, water in the bucket. Okay, so you can bash your head around for the next 60 years trying to figure that out, but once again, and then there's no, like, as with Scripture, as with Hebrews, and Christian Scripture, there's no one way of understanding all this. It has to come from, and be a catalyst to the actual experience. So it's saying it's food in the bowl and water in the bucket. Well, one way it obviously is if you really wake up to it, you're really being nourished, and your thirst, existential thirst, is being slaked, and you're awake and content. Or you can say the food in the bucket, food in the bowl, water in the bucket, anything at all in outer reality is, again, everything. So, kind of a really positive impression of the slightest bit of reality. I want to push it a little further, or use koans which push it a little further into saying, well, it's not just, this. Well, to emphasize the more negative aspect of dust and ashes and see if we can come up with that. One of the most eloquent koans in that is number 27 here. Yunmen, the same master we just saw a second ago. A monk asked him, how is it when the tree withers and the leaves fall? So they've got a perfect image of death, the autumn, dust and ashes in that sense. How is it when the tree withers and the leaves fall? And of course, it's a metaphor for everything, for ourselves as well. And Yunmen said, the body exposed in the golden wind. Golden wind. Now, as I've said before, I wish I knew Chinese and Japanese and could go back to the original and see exactly what it says. It partly depends on translation. Another version has, you embody the golden breeze. Embody the golden breeze. Maybe that gets a little more obviously close to what we should be experiencing here. So in other words, even if you're withering, even if the tree is withering and the leaves are falling and they're dead, dust and ashes from one point of view, from another point of view, you've got the whole of reality there. The golden wind. I think it's a metaphor for the golden-haired lion, if you like, the whole of reality. So once again, even what seems to be dead from one point of view is energetically, imperishably alive. And again, this is nobody's idea. This is experience. What actually happened. To go back to Tosetsu, the barriers, which I refer you to. When your eyes close and the elements decay, where are you? You embody the golden wind. It's the response of this koan. Perhaps my favorite, well, certainly one of my most favorite koans from here that I delighted in when I first read it, and I always delight in it. Illustrates the same point in another way. 91. So, Yanquan called to his attendant, "Bring me my rhinoceros horn fan." That must be pretty nice, you know, a rhinoceros horn fan. It would be illegal nowadays, I hope. But, you know. So bring me my rhinoceros horn fan. And the attendant said, "The fan is broken." So Yun Quan said, "Oh, if the fan is broken, bring me the rhinoceros." And of course, he didn't know what to say. The attendant. I think that's just delightful. So the rhinoceros horn fan is one way in which the energy is now configured in this particular configuration, the rhinoceros horn fan. But it's actually broken. It's not even as good as that. Not only is it dead, but it's broken. But that doesn't bother Yun Quan because he sees more deeply and he says, "Okay, bring me the rhinoceros." Because the rhinoceros is still there. The whole universe is there. Never mind that it's a fan or that it's broken, you're just naming it, you're analyzing it, and you're qualifying it, but it's, what is it really? Food in the bucket, water in the bowl. The body in the golden wind. The rhinoceros is right there. And it's in the brokenness even that you can experience it, which is another little side bit of wisdom, right? No matter how broken you are, how withered you might seem, you're whole. You are the whole. Well, that's very encouraging. Let's not try to grasp onto these things too easily, because I'm going to end with a little kick in the ass here. It goes along with it, number 29. This is very much like the koan Mu that people start with, if you're familiar with that, where Joshu is asked by a monk, does the dog have Buddha nature? And of course, if you were a good student of Buddhist metaphysics, you'd say, of course the dog has Buddha nature, of course. But Joshu says, "Moo!" which means no! As soon as you start talking about Buddha nature, you've got an image and a concept and something to hold on to, and you're missing it. You can't hold on to pure energy. So the right answer is the wrong answer, and the wrong answer is the right answer. A little bit like this one here, I think. So a monk is very anxious, as monks or people tend to be normally. A monk is very anxious. And he says, the conflagration at the end of the eon. Now, in Hindu and Buddhist lore, the kalpas, the ages of the world, have conflagrations, and a new universe, it's destroyed, and the new universe comes up. So, one kalpa after the other. It's kind of like our end of the world, or scientists, the end of the solar system, something like that. So, anyway, the end of the world. The conflagration at the end of the eon sweeps through, and the universe is totally destroyed. I wonder, is this destroyed or not? What's this? This is this! It! Buddha nature, if you like. So he's hoping that's not going to be destroyed by the conflagration. But the master said, it is destroyed. Move! So the monk said, then this goes along with it? Goes along with it. In other words, it's destroyed. Whatever it is destroyed along with it. So where does that leave you? Sit and find out. So, any comments? Questions? Can't presume I can answer this. I'll just say move. So dust and ashes.
Can I ask a question?
If you dare.
Usually don't dare, but I'll go. So you're saying that in the atom there is the universe.
Well, I'm not saying.
Well,
They're saying. Scientists are saying.
you're reporting.
They're saying, yes.
So from a Zen perspective or a spiritual perspective, could you say that in another way? Because I don't really care about the universe. I don't need the universe. I don't need it.
So?
I don't need it, right? I don't need the whole universe.
You got it. And if it weren't there, you wouldn't.
But what is that getting me though? Because I don't really need a universe. I don't even have a car. Why would I need a universe?
That's
right?
pretty good. It's like a beggar standing in front of a golden palace and saying, "I don't need this.
Yeah,
I'm great."
So what? Can we say that in another way? What is? If we don't, I don't need a universe. I don't need a car, right? So what am I getting?
Well, the car is the universe. Well, no. Maybe I should rephrase that. I know. It's like a fish in the ocean saying, I don't need this ocean. Well, of course you do. I mean, it's your whole life. But you don't know it. That's more like it. And the joy and the ecstasy of being connected to everything. And being in this. It's wonderful. You have to get a taste for it. That's part of it as well. And so be careful with those plastic bags as well. If you throw them away, you're throwing away the universe and throwing away yourself. You ever see the film American Beauty with the plastic bag in the wind? Kind of. But yeah, everything is connected to everything, so be reverent. So let's sit a few more minutes before we end and be